Over the years, folks have often asked me, what have you learned from producing the Backcountry Marketing Podcast, from interviewing all these folks? And I've always had a hard time answering that question. And in this episode, I want to try and answer that question to the best of my ability. I think I've always struggled to come up with a response. And usually I'll say something like, oh, I've learned so much. I don't know what I've learned. Or I feel like I'm drinking from the fire hose and I have been for a long time and I haven't actually taken a step backwards and evaluated what have I learned. But it's always bothered me that the lessons and the learnings and the insights I seem to lose track of. One, it feels disrespectful, and two, it just feels like a massive missed opportunity. I'm doing this episode today because I want to share an exciting update with our community. Portside has been on a journey over these last few months. Gosh, I mean, honestly, the last 5 years, as any business has, as any business does. But we're at an exciting time at Portside because I think we have finally found the right hat to wear. And I think I used this analogy in an episode previously where I shared some updates about the show and what we're going to be doing moving forwards. But I, for so long, have felt like we've never had the right hat that fit us. We kept trying on different hats. We kept trying on different brands, trying to figure out who are we? What do we do really well? What's our unique secret sauce? All the questions that are foundational to any brand also apply to us as a small production company. And I always struggled to answer those questions. I always knew that the podcast was something unique about us that not many other production companies did. Why would a production company have a podcast about marketing? Sure, they're connected, but they're also disconnected in many ways. But I never could fully articulate how the show impacted our work as a production company. And today, over these last few months, I have realized what that connection is, and I want to share it with you today. At Portside, we love making videos. We love creating feeling. I believe that emotion is the greatest tool that brands have in their toolkit. The problem, though, is that the world of media is changing rapidly. The world of commercials and brand films and social media video content, it's changing so quickly that I think many brands can't keep up. Many brands don't know where to go. Many brands don't know what options to pursue in a world of hundreds or thousands of routes forward. And that's always been a challenge for us as a production company. Because as a production company, we can control what we can control. We can only, we don't often have the ability to dictate strategy or creative. And those elements like strategy and creative are critical to the success of the things that a production company actually makes. I've seen this happen so many times, and I hear it from other filmmakers too. We can put our heart and soul into a project, but if there's no comprehensive strategy, or the creative doesn't connect to the strategy, or the distribution doesn't work, regardless of how much effort we put in as filmmakers, it doesn't matter. It truly doesn't matter. And I think this is the problem that many filmmakers are running into these days, is because increasingly brands are capacity is maxed out, budgets are smaller, and there's seemingly 100 routes to pursue. And if you don't have an internal team who can help guide you through that strategy, or an agency who can help guide you through that strategy, it's extremely difficult. And I don't blame anyone who tries to figure out, who wakes up in the morning and says, "Gosh, how am I gonna, launch this product today, or how am I gonna launch this marketing campaign today?" Because it's a head scratcher. It really is. But that always puts us as a production company in a tough spot, because if you can't control the entire process, it's hard to control the entire outcome. Well, I realized that our show has significantly influenced how we work. I can't tell you how many times, it's been a handful of times, over the last few years that Portside has been talking to a potential client. And in our intake process, our discovery call before we put together a proposal, I'll ask a lot of questions. I'll want to understand, why are we making this thing? Who is the audience? How does the creative connect to that audience? What's the strategy behind this piece? Why are we making this project now? How is this project going to stand out in the world? Do people really care about what you have to say as a brand? Questions that I think are critical to be asked of any campaign, of any product launch, of any brand film, of any marketing campaign. And what I would find is that sometimes there were answers, sometimes there were great answers to those questions. Sometimes there weren't great answers to those questions. And I always felt like as a filmmaker, I would never want to submit a proposal to a client and say, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to take your money, but I actually don't think this thing that you're working on is really going to work, or it's not as good as it could be." And we lost a lot of work because of that, which is kind of painful to say because last year was one of our slowest years yet. And we lost work because we asked the hard questions. We tried to vet the projects from start to finish and analyze them and try to understand if they would work once out into the world. That's what our podcast has done for us. It's made us lose work. No, I'm kidding. It's given us insight into what works in the world of marketing. And what do I mean by that? There are a number of elements that have to be in play in concert together in order for a video project, whether it's a brand film, a marketing campaign, a product launch, whatever it is, to actually work once it's out into the world. And by work, I mean achieve the goals that the client is looking to achieve. Today, we've gone through all of our podcast episodes over the last 5 years, nearly 200 episodes. And we've assembled all of the insights from them as it pertains to producing strategic and emotional video work. And then we've pulled them all into a database. And I'm looking at this database now. We've built it into a wiki format that's searchable, it's filterable, and we've broken these insights down into a number of categories. Now, these categories aren't groundbreaking, but it's the insights within are critical to understand. So these categories include things like leadership, your brand, strategy, creative, execution, audience, distribution. And within those categories, we've assembled nearly 250 insights from the last 5 years that all pertain to producing quality video work. And I want to read some of them off to you because I think they're fascinating. So here's one. It's really simple. Filmmakers must understand brand partner goals first. Story comes second. This comes from Lindsay Hagen's episode number 145. This is a really simple, obvious insight, but it's something that often gets lost. How many times has filmmakers pitched brands on stories that don't even align with internal goals or internal campaigns? Filmmakers are guilty of this all of the time. And we as filmmakers have to say, no, we shouldn't be pitching stories. We should be listening to the goals. And then if it's appropriate to tell a story, then we tell a story. Here's another one. Questions like ROI. I love these questions, and I ask these questions all the time on the podcast. How do you summarize ROI of video content? Things like, this is from Kate West's episode. She was talking about investing in searchable evergreen YouTube content helps drive consistent organic growth over time, referencing Huckberry's Dirt. Here's another one. This is from Kyle at Garmin. Return on investment isn't always financial. It can be measured in clarity, relevance, or a deeper audience engagement. I love that. Here's another one. ROI often lies in utility, content that gets used again and again across departments and campaigns. Here's another really interesting one that connects performance marketing to upper funnel content. This is from Diana Okenreider's episode. Upper funnel brand spending directly correlates with more organic search traffic and improved performance down funnel, providing brand investment supports long-term ROI. She says, clients who were spending more in their upper funnel saw a 55% average increase in brand organic keyword clicks. That's fascinating. We call this database the Backcountry Marketing Filter because it's exactly that. It's a filter of the insights that are necessary to produce strategic and emotional video work. We're no longer just a production company. We see ourselves as a creative studio that brings the best of a creative studio with the executional power of a production company. We've expanded our services to include a more robust intake, to include strategy, research, creative development, and execution as well. The way we use this filter is to filter your projects, your ideas through this filter to evaluate them for red flags, opportunities, and blind spots that might prevent them from reaching their fullest potential once they're out into the world. Our intake is really the first step in that process, and we charge a flat rate fee for this intake, and we go through and we ask a bunch of questions. It's meant to analyze and pick apart all of these different categories and evaluate them. Try to understand, okay, how well do we really know our audience? How well can we really articulate the goal? How robust is the creative at this point? And once we're aware of what we know and what we don't know, and then our team of strategists and researchers and filmmakers can all come to the table and help you fill in the gaps and then actually go out and produce the work. So this filter is a filter. The best part is that it gets better over time because every interview that we continue to do keeps getting added to this database. If this sounds interesting to you, there's typically two paths that we would propose working with us. The first path is the executional path. And this is kind of the model that we've been using for a long time. If you have a brief, if you have strategy, if you have creative, and you need someone to help make it happen, we can do that. This is a great path for folks who have an agency already, who have a creative team internally, a strategy team, who have answered some of these bigger questions. However, if you work at a smaller brand and maybe there's just a handful of you in the marketing department, you don't have an agency, you don't have an internal creative department who can help you kind of flush out some of these details. The scenic route, as we call it, which is running your ideas through our database, helping with strategy, helping with research, going through our intake process. That route might be for you. And if you're curious to learn more about which route might be the best fit, reach out, give us a call. I'd be happy to chat and kind of discover that with you and propose a couple options. But as I look towards the future and in this crazy world of media that we live in, I believe wholeheartedly that emotion is a marketer's best tool in the toolkit. But emotion without strategy is meaningless. Emotion without direction is meaningless. And that's why I'm so excited about this next evolution here at Portside, is because it brings our love of creating feeling and emotion and telling stories through the visual medium with the ability to actually make those emotions effective once they're out into the world. The worst part is telling a great story and then for it to flop. The Backcountry Marketing Filter can help evaluate creative projects before they get off the ground. We can discern, is this a good idea? Is this not a good idea? How should we tweak this idea before it becomes a good idea? I believe that the brands that invest in strategic, emotional video content are the ones that'll ride this wave to the future.